So two things from the beginning. It's got a touch of the taking the knee to it, hasn't it? You know, all those people who said, no, look, I've got absolutely no problem with protests, but just make sure they're not violent. You remember when that came up after Black Lives Matter, and then footballers started kneeling. And it turned out that the people who said they had absolutely no problem at all with any form of protest as long as it wasn't violent were talking complete twaddle. On this one, the idea that, well, what do you want us to do? What is it? How can we help? What's the actual goal? What's the end game here? As far as I understand, there it is. Government should expend a significant amount of investment. It would also create jobs. Don't mention the labour shortage at this point, but a significant amount of... Palamine does this for a living. He actually goes to houses, often social housing, and advises and then installs insulation. It means on the hottest days of the years, he's one of the fellas sweating buckets in an attic somewhere near Basingstoke. But that's what they're calling for. It's a fairly achievable goal, as management consultants like to say. So we've got an achievable goal here. 12 minutes after 10. I wanted you to get the facts of the matter first. And now I want you to challenge my analogy, all right? Because I'm keen to understand almost all points of view that are, at least tangentially related to reason and rational analysis and, of course, evidence. So I want you to imagine a coach, and there are 100 people sitting on the coach, and we are all heading in the same direction, and we are heading towards a cliff edge. This is nothing to do with the B word, all right? We're on a big bus and we're heading towards a cliff edge. Now, almost everybody on the bus acknowledges the existence of the cliff now. I think when we first started having these conversations, there was still a significant number of fellow passengers who didn't think there was a cliff at all. And you could point at the cliff, you could show them photographs of the cliff, and they would insist that, well, it's got nothing to do with the driver of the coach. The direction we're going in has got nothing to do, the cliff has got nothing to do with us. We're nowhere near the cliff. And anyway, even if we were driving up a road with no cliffs on it, we could accidentally fall off a cliff anyway. That would be your climate change denier. Still quite well represented in some corners of the media and the sort of dodgy world of think tanks. But they are now, thankfully, in a minority. I think the majority of people sitting on the coach know that there's a cliff, don't know what to do about it. And looking at it's a bit like Speed, the Keanu Reeves film. They can't do anything about the bus. How many people on the bus turned out to be Keanu Reeves? Everybody else just sits there panicking or making peace with their maker, or saying a prayer, or trying to get hold of the family to say goodbye. I mean, I exaggerate slightly. Ambivalence normally, because you're just not feeling it. You know the cliff is there, but there's nothing you can do about it. And besides, I've got bills to pay. I've got stuff to do. I've got plans to make. I've got people to see. So that would be still most of us. And then I don't know what percentage it is in the context of the protesters. It's 2 or 3 passengers out of 100 on the bus. Would you say maximum? I mean, we're not talking about 10% of the population taking action like this, although a significant number of passengers may support them and possibly join in a bit, but 2 or 3 are trying to grab the steering wheel. They're not just trying to grab the steering wheel, they are screaming the bloody house down about the danger of continuing to travel at full speed towards this cliff edge. And they're right. But I am a middle-class Englishman, and I still feel a sense of discomfort and oh dear, I say, pipe down a bit, will you, chaps? This isn't, this, and yet I know they're right. And I'm not being characteristically self-obsessed on this one. I'm just using myself as a lens. I'm capable of change. I am capable, thank God, at this stage in my life of changing my mind about things. I'm not sure I always was, but goodness knows I am now. And I know that the people screaming are right. And yet I understand the person sitting over there who's really irritated by them. And of course, Nick took a very powerful call from the mother of a young girl on her way to her school who's in pieces, according to the mother, in the back of the car. She's on the coach as well. And the people screaming and shouting and trying to grab the steering wheel are frightening the life out of that little girl, out of that 11-year-old girl. But they're still right. And what else can they do if the bus continues to career towards the cliff edge at breakneck speed, but scream, and scream again and start grabbing us and shaking us and trying to communicate to us the sense of urgency that they feel, but we do not? And I think that's close to perfect. As an analogy, I may as well start the week as I intend to go on. I can't currently find fault with that because it acknowledges the existence of everybody. There might even be that favourite of the lazy tabloid analysis of this issue. There might be someone on the coach who's on their way to chemotherapy. And you're trying to, we're going to stop at chemotherapy on the way to the cliff edge. And if you've grabbed the steering wheel, we won't be able to do that. All right, that's not the strongest bit of the analogy, but it still works. And that is what I would like you to examine. You're on a coach, you're heading towards the cliff edge. Why do we still get cross with the people screaming that we have to put the brakes on now? Even if it doesn't work, even if there are other factors, we have to slam the brakes on now. And we may still skid over the edge, but at least we'd have tried to avoid it.